Alright, hello guys and welcome to the channel. My name is Pilot Pete and today we want to do a realistic VFR flight from Leutkirch to Hohenems. In the last video we flew from Hohenems to here, to Leutkirch, and it was basically just an easy VFR flight. We didn't go much into details, and as I said back then, this time I want to have a look at the airspaces and stuff like that if we are flying a bit more realistic. And we have done all our checks. We are loaded up with fuel. Let's have a look if this is still correct. Yes, we have about 50%, 44% of fuel. We are loaded, CG, everything looks fine. So let's hop into the cockpit and pull our iPad and have a look at our flight briefing basically. What you can see now on the screen is my iPad, which I have next to me, which is loaded up with ForeFlight. You can see we are here at the apron in Leutkirch, Echo Delta November Lima. We will depart from runway 23, stay in the traffic pattern, and then leave it to the south. And if you zoom out a little bit, you can see we are very close to the control zone of Memmingen, which is a controlled airspace. Leutkirch is no controlled airspace, so we have no ATC and stuff to worry about. The only thing we have to do is to report our intentions and to make calls when we are entering the runway, when we are departing in the pattern and stuff like that. But close to us is a controlled airfield, which has commercial traffic, so passenger airplanes and stuff like that. So we have to be a little bit careful. We will not come close to the actual control zone, which is the red. You can see it here now highlighted in green, which is the green part or the red part right here. But you can see there are some blue outlines basically here in different sectors here and so on. And this is the so-called TMZ, the Transponder Mandatory Zone. If we zoom in, maybe I can show you. It doesn't get bigger, but you can see here, this is the TMZ. This goes from 3,500 feet up to flight level 100 or 10,000 feet, depending on the altimeter setting. And there are two necessary things we have to do when we are flying inside there. And basically, Leutkirch is just at the border of this one. We will not fly into this today, as we are departing from 2-3 and leaving to the south. So basically we stay outside, but nevertheless we have to keep this in mind. And what we have to do if we would fly into the TMZ, or I would recommend to even do it if you are just nearby, so the ATC knows what we are doing and that we are aware that we are inside or close to a TMZ. That is, we have to set squawk code for 404, and at the same time on our second radio we have to monitor 129.450. This means we can hear the ATC from the Memmingen airport, so we have to have an ear on that to see if there might be some possible conflicts or just what is happening close to us, so not that we get in the way of passenger aircrafts. You can see the IFR approach right here. This is the ILS localizer of Memmingen. We will fly to the south, so we will not cross that and not be close to that, so we are probably fine. But we just have to be aware of what is happening around us. That's why we have to set the squawk code and monitor this frequency. So the controller knows this guy is knows what he's doing. He knows he's in the TMZ or close to the TMZ, and he's listening to me. And if there would be any possible conflict and the controller can see that on the radar, he would call us over the monitoring frequency. So he can give us advice or also say, hey, please call me. And then we can switch to his frequency and establish two-way communication with him if necessary. But probably a non-issue today. then we will fly to the south. As you can see, the traffic pattern is just leading us basically onto this highway. We will follow this highway. It's a VFR flight, so yeah, we will navigate visually, and the highway is a good reference for that. And you can see what happens if we would follow exactly this highway. We will get into another TM set right here. And this is the next controlled airfield, is Friedrichshafen right here. Also with commercial passenger traffic, so jet planes basically. And this one has a TM set as well. You can see this goes... Let me get rid of this real quick. And you can see here we have, this goes from 1,700 feet AGL, so above ground level, up to 5,000 feet. And we have to set squawk 2677 and monitor the frequency of Friedrichshafen, sorry for that, which is 119.925. So basically the same, just different. Exactly for the same reasons. We are close to a control zone right here. The Friedrichshafen CTR, we are not flying into that, so we don't have to communicate, but we have to listen to that and to set our squawk to 2677. So we will keep that in mind for today's flight. So basically, as soon as we leave the pattern, we will switch over configure our transponder to Friedrichshafen and put the monitor frequency. So we are just prepared for that. Next, we will fly further towards south. Let's take the highway as a reference for our flight planning. We will cross the Lake Constance, or Bodensee in German. We will cross it as much as possible to the left from our direction, because here is another controlled airfield. This is Switzerland already right here. And this is St. Gallen Alten Rhein. And you can see also this one has a control zone, the CTR. We are not allowed to fly into that without permission. We can fly into there, but then we have to contact ATC. But no necessity, we will just stay clear of it. And you can see that the traffic pattern leaves from St. Gallen, leaves towards Echo, visual reporting point Echo, or inbound traffic comes along this way at 3,000 feet. So we want to stay away from this visual reporting point, as there might be traffic conflicts with departing or arriving traffic into Alten Rhein. So we will stay clear of this area and just stay as much as possible to the left, close to the mountains right here. And then we start our approach to Hohenems Dornbirn, which is down there. And today runway 23 will be active, the same as here, basically the same wind direction. It's not a long flight. And if 23 is active, then this arrival and departing sector is in use. The one with the visual reporting point Echo. This is the arriving sector right here. And at Oscar, we have to stay minimum at 3,000 feet. So above or minimum at 3,000 feet. We have to report Delta Echo Echo Papa Lima, Oscar 3,000 feet inbound to land Hohenems. And from this arrival sector, we will just go straight into the pattern. And what you can see right here is this pattern is not a standard rectangle shaped pattern. This is just because of the location right here. You can see the yellow part right here. This is the city or buildings, and we have to stay clear of that. We don't want to have any noise complaints at the airport if we will fly over the city. So we have to stay outside, and that's why this traffic pattern right here has a special shape. And as you can see, we will basically not fly a proper base. It's basically just a curve that leads us directly onto the runway. It's pretty short, so this approach has to be flown very carefully, and you have to be prepared for that. The traffic pattern altitude is about 2,200 feet, so we will join at about 2,200, but then we have to lose altitude pretty quick, as we are basically just going into a short final. All right, so you have a little bit of an overview what we are doing today. Let's get rid of these annotations. So yeah, let's prepare the aircraft. Let's start the engines, and then let's going. The flight will be about 15 or 20 minutes, something around that. All right. I hope you like that I will let the iPad open to see for you, so you can navigate with me, so you have a better overview about where we are going, and what we have to avoid. All right. Fuel tanks both. Fuel shutoff valve is closed. Mixture goes full rich. The throttle about 1/3 in. We check our controls real quick. So we have this done. This is free and correct. All right. Battery on. Beacon and nav lights come on.
Clear prop.
Clear prop, and let's go. We better set our parking brakes so we don't roll a taxi away. That looks good, 1000 RPM. Turn the alternator on, turn the avionic master switches on. I like to put this to Celsius and this to local time. It's late in the evening, so we have to hurry a little bit. As it's getting dark pretty soon.
Beführung liegt 500 links, Botsgott. Am EKZ aufrüsten.
Okay, that was VFR communications that are not obviously not up to the standards, so let's get rid of that for a second. We don't really need it today. Okay, the radios are starting. What we can do right now, if when we are on the ground, we can already set, even if we are not flying into it, we're flying close to it, and it's better to have the ATC in Memming and be aware that they know, okay, this plane is aware of the procedures right here with the TM set. So let's set the squawk code to 4404. We have set it on alt, so altitude reporting. That means the altitude information that we are flying on is sent to the ATC, to the radar or controller, so he can see that as well. And we have to set the monitor frequency on COM2, which is here. So my main frequency is 122.8. It's just the VFR Unicom frequency. In the real world, we will set the airport frequency right here from Leutkirch. So monitor frequency 129.405. 129.450, of course. 450 on COM2. And we set that active 129.450, squawk 4404, altitude reporting is on. Alright, we are ready to go. Parking brake off, P2T down, taxi lights on. Leutkirch traffic, Delta Echo Echo, Papa Lima, taxing to holding point, runway 23. Brake check, looks fine. And there seems to be no traffic around here today, so we make a backtrack to runway 23. Leutkirch traffic, Delta Echo Echo Papa Lima, backtrack 05 for takeoff on runway 23. We entered the runway, so we will put on the strobe lights and the landing lights. We can turn off the taxi lights. Wind is pretty much calm. At least here on the ground. We are a little bit fast. Ignore these lights here. So come on, give a little bit of power. We turn the nose into the wind for our run-up. We do this right here. Parking brakes on. 1700 RPM, you know it from the last flight. Runs a little bit rough again, so we pull the mixture out. Give the magnetos a little bit of a clean. We can see the oil temperature is in the green, oil pressure is in the green. Suction looks good, amp is positive, fuel flow is okay, EGT is fine, fuel is fine. So only thing left is a short run up, maybe it's better now. Much better, full reach 1700 RPM, we check the left magneto. Drop 100, recover 100, right magneto check. Drop 100 and recover 100. So we are pretty much good to go. We set the flaps to 1 notch, 10 degrees. Park and brake off and let's go. Leutkirch traffic, Delta Echo Echo Papa Lima, takeoff runway 23 and we leave the pattern to the south. You can see I already have the correct the heading back at the right position, just to have the spatial awareness. So we will fly, you can see on the iPad, we will fly straight out, stay in the pattern and leave the pattern to the south. Full power. Push the yoke in. We want to rotate at about 55 knots, not earlier. Sometimes the plane wants to go in the air earlier. All right. Right rudder, stay on the step on the ball. We climb with about 60 to 70 knots. Straight ahead till we cross the highway. You can see it in a second. And as soon as we cross the highway, we will turn to the left, to the south. Turned a little bit early. But no big deal. Leutkirch traffic, Delta Echo Echo, Papa Lima, leaving the pattern to the south. Alright, we reduce power to about 2400 RPM. We still want to climb. We can take our flaps in, trim accordingly. And we want to fly at about 4500. We don't really need to go higher than that. We are already close to the TMZ in TMZ Memmingen. It will pop up in a second here on our ForeFlight tablet. So that means I will set squawk 2677 already. 2677. And on COM2 we pull frequency 119.925. On 119.925 on COM2. All right. Always have an eye on the engine instruments. Everything in the green. This is looking good. Fuel flow is good. Fuel should be enough. Okay. For 1500. We want to stay here. Adjust the mixture for max RPM. As you can see, we are basically following the highway right here, but we don't necessarily have to stay exactly on the highway, as there is no controlled airspace or anything around us, so we just have an eye out for traffic. And as I said before, we want to stay as much to the left as possible if we cross the lake, so we can basically just aim straight ahead towards the lake. Beautiful fall, autumn afternoon right here. Bit cloudy, but not too bad. Not as much wind as I expected up here. A little bit of turbulence, but very slightly, nothing to worry about. Right now we are basically inside the TM set. It goes from 1700 AGL up to 5000, so we are basically inside right now. But we have our squawk and we are monitoring, so you might ask why I use ForeFlight and why I'm not using Navigraph, because I have a Navigraph subscription as well, of course. When I fly airliners, I want to have the nav data, the IREX, the IFR charts and stuff like that. But for VFR, I prefer ForeFlight, just because, mainly because the TM set. Navigraph has improved pretty much on VFR flying. So we can see all the airspaces. It has a VFR map now. It allows VFR flight planning, but it's just not as detailed as ForeFlight. ForeFlight is a real-world application, which Navigraph is not, and therefore there are some shortcuts probably. I think it will not be too hard for them to implement to just get more data, but it's a lot more work, and maybe it will need price adjustments. I'm not sure which data is freely available to use for the commercial side. So there might be some legal stuff, because in ForeFlight you have to pay much more than Navigraph, because it's a real world app, and if you want all the charts, the IFR charts and everything, you will need a Jeppesen subscription. But these are the legal charts, which the ones used in Navigraph are not. Well, of course they are the current charts, and basically you could use them in the real world, but you can see clearly it always says for flight simulation only, so they are not licensed to use them for real world navigation. And ForeFlight has no such restriction. You can use it on the sim, or you can use it in the real world. As it is, I can just take it in the Cessna in the real world and go fly with it. And for example, one downside of Navigraph, it does have the airspaces, even the TM sets, they are there, you can see them. But if you don't know that these are TM sets, you don't know it. Well, you can click on them, but in Navigraph there is nowhere the info to be found about the squawk codes and about the frequency. And as long as they don't provide that, I prefer ForeFlight for VFR flying. Also, of course, ForeFlight has much more features that would be very useful in the real world, or even in the sim. It's just a question of the price. If you fly in the US, pretty much everything is included, charts wise. But in Europe it's a little bit different. You have to pay every country, or many countries, have their own charts, ICAO charts and stuff like that, and you have to pay them, you have to buy them. For example, you have to get the VFR chart for Austria, you have to pay the one for Germany, you have to pay the one for Switzerland, and if you do not pay them, you can just use what ForeFlight has included in the basic subscription. It's usually more than enough, but if you want the real world ICAO charts, you have to buy them. But there are some basic Europe VFR charts included, you can see here, so that's really cool. So you don't really need more than that, in my opinion. And usually, if there are no special procedures, I prefer to just use the default map of ForeFlight. All right, the next thing we have to keep in mind, which we talked about, is that we stay left above the lake. Beautiful view right here, right? Absolutely stunning. Let's hope that the fog there isn't a big problem for us. Right now the visibility is quite good, but it could get worse over time. But right now I don't think it's an issue for our planned landing in Hohenems. As I said, we want to stay on the left side as much as possible. Straight ahead of us is the control zone of Altenrhein, and also the reporting point Echo and the arrival and departure route right here. So we have to be careful and watch out for traffic. You can see, maybe you saw it, there was a notification exited TMZ. That's also a cool feature. ForeFlight will highlight the airspaces you are about to fly in. So if you would fly towards the Altenrhein CTR, we are losing altitude right now, so let's stop that. It will highlight it and say, hey, you're about to fly into the control zone of Altenrhein. So it's just a bit more security. It helps with the awareness so that you don't have any airspace violations. You see, as soon as I turn towards Altenrhein, it gets highlighted. And as soon as I turn away, and I'm not on course to the CTR, it will go away. So this is a pretty cool feature. It just keeps the map clean and keeps everything distracting out of the way, or if something needs awareness, a message will pop up. Alright, we have to line up for the arrival sector right now. As said, we will fly arrival sector Oscar. And we have to be at minimum 3000 feet, and we don't really want to be much higher than that, because it's a very short approach to runway 23. Let's have an eye out for traffic. Looks good right now. If you have watched the last video and you remember the reporting point, usually these reporting points that you can see on the iPad, like Oscar or Whiskey, they are usually attached to something that is very good visible from the air. And in this case, you can see it's an obstacle right here. And this obstacle is an antenna. Usually there is some obstacle information as well. Yes, here you can see it. Antenna at 1725 feet with lighting unknown. So it's not the data is not available. All right. We want to line up for Oscar right now. So Oscar is to the left of the antenna. So we'll reduce power. We want to go down to 3,000 feet. 3,000 feet. I'm not sure if you can see it from here already. Next to the tower is a bridge. Or next to the antenna is a bridge. Must be this one here. So we have to stay left of this one. And then we will report our altitude as soon as we are above the reporting point. There you can see Altenrhein Airport. And this river right here, the Altenrhein, this is basically exactly the border between Austria, which is here, and Switzerland, which starts here. And Germany then further down here. So always have an eye out here, because this is also exactly, we are basically crossing the extended center line of the runway. Alright, here you can see the bridge. We want to stay left of it. I cannot see the antenna yet, but basically it's just behind that. Okay, we are at 3,000 feet, so level off, because we have to be at minimum 3,000 feet. A bit too low. We're basically just above it now. Hohenems traffic, Delta Echo Echo Papa Lima, crossing Oscar 3,000 feet for landing, runway 23. Okay, now we have to reduce speed and get rid of some altitude, because we fly basically here, we cross the highway, stay close to the buildings but not above the buildings, and then just turn right to the final runway 05, runway 23 of course. To lose some speed, I will set flaps 1. Traffic pattern altitude 2,200 feet. We're getting a little bit slow, so we don't want to go below 60 in the approach. So give a little bit of power, stay clear of the village here, or of the city. We are basically in the base Hohenems traffic, Delta Echo Echo Papa Lima, turning final runway 23 for land. Set flaps 2. Mixture is full rich. Power idle. Flaps full, it's a pretty short runway. We want to stay above the tree here, for sure. There are some winds. So we have to crab a little bit. Some crosswind. Oh, quite the ground effect. Touchdown a bit later than I'm used to. It was a pretty smooth flight, and then suddenly on the approach there were some heavy crosswinds. Well, not that heavy, but heavy enough to keep us floating. Hohenems traffic, Delta Echo Echo Papa Lima, runway 23 vacated. Alright. Strobe light comes off, landing light goes off, taxi light comes on, flaps go up. And another nice feature you could see on the iPad, as soon as you are on the runway, as soon as it touches down, it automatically pops up the ground chart for the airport. So we just pull up in front of the hangar, which is the green one to the left. Alright, let's set the parking brake. All the lights can come off, just the beacon stays on. Before we shut off the engine, we turn off the navigational instruments. Avionics bus goes off. We cut the mixture. Beacon light can come off. Battery goes off. We turn the keys and we close the fuel tanks and the fuel shut-off valve. And here we are. Welcome to Hohenems. All right. Thank you very much for joining me on this flight. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a little bit, we went a little bit deeper this time with all the navigation. I hope you like this. I hope you also like that you can follow the route on the iPad and what we are doing. And if you enjoy such things, let me know. Then we can do another flight, maybe to a bit more interesting area than Leutkirch or Hohenems, maybe to Samedan, which is the highest airport in Europe. It's not far from here, about a 1 hour flight, maybe a little bit less. It's up in the mountains right here. It's a very special approach. You can also see there are arrows and stuff everywhere, and it's in a really, really narrow valley. So the traffic pattern is very close, very small, basically, very narrow. And in the real world, it needs a special improvement to be able to land there. You cannot just go there. You have to make tests, pass a test and stuff like that, and go with a flight instructor and all that. So maybe this could be something for the next flight with some special things we have to keep in mind when we are flying into the mountains, which is completely different story than flying just over the flat lands like we just have. Anyway, if you have any suggestions, critics, inputs, compliments, maybe even that, then let me know in the comments. And yeah, thanks for joining, and see you soon. Bye-bye.